afternoon. Hello, I hope everybody is well. It's good to be here on this beautiful overcast day in Rhode Island. So today, I'm continuing my journey. So for the last couple weeks, I have been talking about my business, things relating to the name of my business, releasing the Style Sherpa, stepping into my name, using my name professionally, the evolution of my logo, and sort of the change in the business, right? So just sort of the direction I'm heading in, right? So similar to what I was doing, just with less of a single focus on style. Style now has become just one of the many tools that I use with my clients to help them consciously create change. So today I wanted to sort of demonstrate, or not demonstrate, but talk about my experiences with change and how those have brought me to and taught me about the benefits of consciously creating change and why I so passionately want to help other people do this, right? So other people don't have to sort of stumble through the way I did. So I'm just going to sort of go through a couple of instances throughout my life where change has happened. And I just sort of want to talk about my experiences just so you can get a little idea of where I'm coming from so that you can see that I can understand maybe where you're coming from as well. So let's dive in. And by the way, all of this, most of these are on my website as well. I have a brand new website that I launched. I have my new email. I am 100% Venture Into Change, baby. So if you are looking for me, it's Galen Apt, Venture Into Change. You search those anywhere and you will find me, the new iteration of me. And I'm very, very excited with how I am showing up now. Very, very happy about it. So let's get started. Let's get right to the nitty gritty. Here's some stories about me and how change has happened to me over the years. So one example was feeling lost after I moved to Rhode Island. About 6 months after my husband and I got married, we met and got married in the DC area. We soon discovered that we weren't going to be able to afford to raise a family down there without us both, having crazy commutes, working, having crazy commutes. So we decided to come up to Rhode Island. His brother and wife and family lived up here, and so we moved up here, and those were the only people we knew. And that was really, really hard. I had to leave a job that I adored down in Virginia. I was a property manager. I managed a 500,000 square foot office building, mixed use of office and restaurants and banks, commercial stuff. And I loved that job. I loved it. I loved my tenants. I loved being the on-site building services manager. I just loved everything about it. It was different every day. It was just a really, really good fit for me. And so when we had decided that we needed to make a change if we were going to have a family someday, I had to leave my job that I loved and move up to Rhode Island, where we knew nobody but my in-laws, who were lovely, but I didn't know anybody else. So that was really hard. And it sort of had me challenged, right? Because I had to come here and find new work. And what I did was, when I went at it, I was just looking for a job to make some money, just to sort of fill that gap. And it kept me, and because I didn't know anybody and I didn't love the jobs I was finding, it kept me sort of in this state, very reliant on just my relationship with my husband, which is lovely. We were newlyweds, it's still lovely, but that was hard. There wasn't enough in my life. So I felt a little sort of lost at sea, right? I didn't really belong here yet. And it was hard to make friends here. People from Rhode Island, they are Rhode Island people. They stay here. They have a great sense of family, but they're not necessarily looking to add people in. And especially because I didn't have kids and I didn't have family or any other connections, it was really hard for me to sort of break into making friends. That did change, and I have come to just adore Rhode Island and my Rhode Islanders. But it was hard at first. That was a real challenge. So that change that we chose still came upon me in a way that was not conscious. I wasn't doing things in a conscious way to make it better for myself. I was looking for jobs just to look for jobs, not looking for a job that really fulfilled my soul, right? Um, Fast forward 4 years from there, got pregnant, had a baby, right? So blindsided by the premature birth of my first daughter, my first child. I only have one daughter, right? I have two kids, one daughter. My first child. She was born at 31 weeks, 3 pounds, 3 ounces. Cutest little thing. Um, and I spent the first 6 weeks of her life going back and forth to the hospital all day, learning how to care for this tiny human, how to be a mom, and learning it through the fabulous NICU nurses at Women and Infants in Providence. Amazing. Can't say enough about the doctors and nurses and services I was provided. They really helped give me a good foundation to being a mom and some early nursing skills, which are always coming in handy. But that was a lot, right? All I knew, again, still didn't know very many people other than the handful of people at work, still hadn't made very many friends outside of work. All of a sudden, had a baby. The plans we had had were that I was going to go back to work after my maternity leave because we needed the income. So we had lined up daycare. We were going to do all of those things. Well, the universe had other plans. Baby came early. I needed to stay home, right? She couldn't go to daycare for at least 6 months, and the doctor said, if you can avoid daycare altogether for a preemie, that would be best. So we sort of took a look at things and said, okay, I guess I'm staying at home. It it was a big shock. It was a big change, and we were just sort of flailing around, figuring stuff out. The second child, by the way, came in with just slightly less fanfare. He was full term, still small, came in breech. Anyway, that's a story for another time. Suffice it to say, resiliency was happening in my life with that premature birth of my daughter. Big change, right? New mom, premature baby. No one prepares you for that, right? Okay. Then, fast forward a couple years, got 2 kids now, stay-at-home mom, been that way for a while, and started to feeling trapped, right? Like, seriously trapped. Like, standing at the end of my driveway at the end of some days, hyperventilating, almost having panic attacks because I just needed to get out. I just needed to run. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't handle it. Even as I knew in the back of my head, I had no reason to feel this way. Everything I could want, 2 beautiful, healthy children, a husband who was supporting us, a great house, lived in a wonderful area, was starting to meet people because I had kids. So the preschools and the play dates and things were starting to open up my world a bit. Yet I was still feeling challenged by this phase in my life. It was really, really hard. You know, motherhood is phenomenal. Wouldn't change it a thing. But it is hard. And I was feeling that. And I'm just being completely vulnerable and honest. I had days where I wanted to run down that street and away as fast as I could go. And so it was crazy. You know, I really wanted to have more of a definition of myself than just being someone else's mom, and I had completely lost myself. And, you know, I think this had been sort of a building up of things, right? So leaving a place I knew, leaving a job I loved, going to a place where it was harder to meet people, going to jobs that I didn't love, that really didn't suit me, then to having babies that I didn't, and early babies. It was all sort of building up, and it was all creating this sort of perfect storm of, oh my gosh, what is going on? I need some coping mechanisms. After that, my dad died. I was devastated by the loss of my dad. Just utterly devastated. I was very close to him. Very special relationship. I was very, very fortunate. But when I was just floundering my way through grief and just sort of pushing it down because I had 2 small children to care for and a house to care for, and I had to hold it together. So I never fully allowed myself to go through the grieving process, to do that releasing, right? So this is where I learned about the importance of releasing. I felt really scared and unsure several years later when I started the Style Sherpa business. When I launched that personal styling and wardrobe redesigning offerings, you know, the idea of being an entrepreneur is so cool until you realize you have no idea what the F you're doing and it's hard, and it's trial and error, and you're throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and you're faking it till you make it, and you're like walking blindfold, and you just hope nobody sees behind the fact that you have no idea what you're doing. That's where I learned confidence. That's where I learned that I actually had some confidence and how to start tapping into it. And that's where I developed my conscious dressing, was going through that whole business, and developing that business and meeting people who could help me with that business. Because I would never have been able to do it had I not met my networking people. David Belzic, thank you very much. Best friend, business coach. Amen. Hallelujah. Thank God for him. And a host of other people who have supported me and taken me by the hand and just sort of helped me and referred me. And then all my delicious and delightful clients that I've gotten to meet over the years and see how that they have blossomed and improved gave me more confidence. Every time I went to a client, I got more and more confidence knowing I was good at what I did and they were benefiting, and then they could go out and be good with what they did. So that was very juicy. And that was kind of a purposeful change, right? I had a little bit of a change thrust upon me, but that was a chosen change. So I've also felt, and before I get onto that, I just want to continue. The last one that I'm going to talk about is this last one that I have spoken about in the last few months, about the empty nest syndrome that I had, because my kids, both of my babies, as dramatic as their entrances were, and they're leaving kind of in the same way, because within a 6-week period, both my kids left my house. Mind you, they were 4 years apart in age, so I had planned for that to be a slower process. It didn't happen, and that's okay. And so I was just lost, and there in the back of my head, and it was a bit of a mind fuck, pardon my language, I swear, it was a bit of a mind fuck, knowing that at one point I felt completely trapped by motherhood, and then years later was feeling a complete and utter loss because I no longer had that role to fill in the same way. I knew it was changing, and it was just like, oh my gosh, but here I was, lost and untethered, not knowing what to do with that part of me, that mothering, tending part of me. And I lacked purpose. And this is where I began to dabble into consciously creating change a little deeper, right? Because one of the reasons I had actually started my business a couple years before this was to hopefully avoid complete and utter meltdown from empty nest syndrome, right? I wanted to give myself something to focus on, to grasp on, to grow, to tend to when my children launched into their independence, which is what they're supposed to do. They're not supposed to stay home. And I knew that was coming. And my mother had always said, our children come through us, not from us. And I always loved that. They came through me, and then they're not meant to stay. They're meant to go off. And you know that, but it was hard. And even though I had made those conscious preparations of starting this business, hoping that it would work, not only to fill my soul, but to be kind of a placeholder when the kids left, as well as it did help, it didn't help as much as I thought it might. But that's okay. At least I had done something to consciously create a change in my life, to give me a purpose. So I have found that as I was writing these things, sort of reflecting back on all these examples of change that I have been through, and there were many, many more, but these were just sort of like the bigger ones in the last couple of decades that I really wanted to pull from, because these really sort of helped me shape where I'm at now. So reflecting on them it's shown me, how you can be so ensconced in a particular challenge in one part of your life, and that at some point it will change, and then you may have the polar opposite experience later on, which is what I experienced with my kids, right? So that trapped in motherhood to completely lost when they left. And, it's one of those, we should have been born with seatbelts, right? Like, buckle up, people. It's a bumpy journey. It's a hard one. And as easy as life can be, and has been for me in many areas, these bumps, they can rock you to your core. And it has shown me that, change can come at you, whether you like it or not, i.e. premature babies and death of loved ones, There are also times when you can consciously create that change that are going to help you to avoid some of the unknown change, right? So, starting my business. So, you can see how I have been affected by the change comes at you because sometimes you don't have a choice, right? It just happens. Car accident or something like that. That's not your fault, right? Those things are unconscious and those things just, that change just happens. But when we can grasp on and take control of the change, it makes those moments when we can't that much more, that makes us more resilient to be able to handle them in a different way. That's what I've found. Um, because, what's the old saying? You know the old saying, if you don't make a decision, the decision, that is a decision in itself, not making a decision. Basically, if you don't make a decision, it's going to be made for you. And that's a big one because if you don't make decisions, those bumps and changes and all sorts of craziness that's going to come at you is going to be a lot faster, a lot harder, a lot more challenging. Versus if you're like, okay, I'm going to make a conscious choice to make this change or make this shift or do this thing. And even if it doesn't work out, I know I have made this conscious choice. And usually along the way, when you make that choice, you go, okay, well, if it doesn't work out, there's going to be a backup plan, right? Because that just comes hand in hand with the decision to take control and change things. I mean, let's face it, if I hadn't had my business when my kids left, I can't even imagine, that's a little scary, how I would have felt and where I would have been if I hadn't had the business. And even with the business, it was challenging. So I feel grateful that I had the forethought to say, you know what, let's get something going for you prior to them leaving. So that was a big, big deal in the consciously creating change for me, supporting myself in that way. Because I've walked over these paths. I've stumbled, I've walked, I've tripped. And that's when I started searching for tools. And all through this, I would, reach out and I would read a book or I would talk to someone. I would seek some sort of solace, some sort of support from somewhere saying, help, I need some help. And I don't know what it is. I don't know how I'm going to get through this, but I know there's things out there that I can do. And through experiencing these things that I've listed and more, that's where I've come up with my knowledge and my tools and my saying, ooh, this works for this, but if I do this and then add this, that might help over here. That's how my brain works. That's one of my geniuses. And that's why I'm so excited to be able to work with people who want to take control, create change, and show up in a different manner, more confidently, to really just experience a fulfilling life that makes their soul sing. I can help you do that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Right? And one of the things that I put on my website is that I say you're not crazy for wanting change, because the only constant in life is change. Not only are you not crazy, you are capable of it. That and so much more. And even better, you don't have to go it alone. And that's why I am so excited about where I'm at with Venture into Change under Galen Apt, to help you or anyone you know who is just like, you know what I'm doing isn't working and I think I need to address things in a different way. I got you, boo. I got you. I'm here. So I'm going to ask a few questions today because I am loving my questions and I just sort of want you to sort of sit with them, right? So what does change look like for you? What are some instances where change has happened to you? What are some instances where change, you have made the change happen? Have you done both? Or have you only been in one or the other? Think about that. And then how have you felt? How have you reacted? How would you like to react? Think about some of those things and do it kindly with no judgment. This is a no judgment zone. I hope you have taken something away from my sharing of my stories a little bit, because that's a taste of what change looks like, and a change comes in many different forms. And I barely touched on the different forms. I could go on with the different forms from different clients I've worked with and continue to work with. So if you're looking to do these things, let's talk. If you think someone would benefit from hearing any of my videos or this one about change, examples of change, please feel free to share it. You can't share it from here, so you can either invite them into the group, or you can go to my YouTube channel where I upload the videos, and then you can share them from there, all you want. And I would love to have a conversation with anyone who's looking to discuss change or what change might look like for them. And if you just want to have a chat, I'm good for that too. Please go check out my new website, ventureintochange.com. I hope you would like it. There's a link to schedule a call with me there if you like. If not, my email is galen@ventureintochange.com. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon.